Welcome, everybody, and welcome to the CSEC meeting today on January 21st. I'm glad to welcome a set of guests from Abode Technology and from the CMLP group, Jan Ossetti and Travis Estes, and the others I don't know so well, but we'll introduce them in a minute. Welcome. Thanks for coming to this meeting to share with us about the new Heat Coach program that CMLP is going to be sponsoring. Just before we get into that, I just want to go through the approval of the minutes from the December 17th meeting. Does anybody have any comments about that?
Yes, I've had a couple of comments. I made a couple of minor typo corrections on the Google Drive page, but under section 5, talking about the mixed-use developments in West Concord and one at Thoreau Depot, and it says the developer of the West Concord philosophically agreed with all electric, but I was just thinking should be a name there, and I'm not quite sure which West Concord development that is. And then further down, but halfway down that paragraph, there's a sentence which says, if we sewed a standardized way of computing the costs, the spell uncertainty. Sewed is not the correct word. What is the correct?
I think used. I tried to put in used. I'm not sure who's keeping track of changes. I thought
that makes sense. Okay. Apart from that, I didn't see anything.
Can I hear a motion to accept?
Wait, I had another comment or two in the paragraph. I'm trying to find it to refer to it. But in the paragraph where there's discussion of, I'm having trouble finding it to refer to, but there's discussion of the electric and the perception that all electric is more expensive. And somebody, I think Hani, is reported as saying that it's more expensive at higher capital outlay, which then we go on to discuss that that's not necessarily true. So Hani should probably address whether or not he actually said it is higher or it might be higher, because then we went on to say it's not necessarily higher.
I think as a general statement, there is a fairly large capital outlay. I think the major issue becomes what incentives programs are available or not, right? Without incentive programs, if you compare.
Well, we don't want to debate. We just want to decide what goes in the minute. So I just wanted to clarify whether you said it is higher, but then we went on to talk about how it's not necessarily higher. Or
well, I don't know what we concluded. I'm not sure if we concluded that discussion, right?
Sharon, can you add a comment into the document just at that point?
I thought I did, but I'm trying to find it.
And going back to
right now,
my point about naming the developer of the West Concord philosophically, do we have a name of that developer?
I can look it up.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have it on hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember the name. It's 13B Commonwealth Ave, I think, is the property address for that one with the mixed use. I'd have to look up the developer's name too. I've forgotten it.
Okay, but that's a bit more specific than what's written there. So, thank you.
I had a few changes about, they're not very significant, just clarifications about a couple of the updates that I did. Mainly around what the Heat Smart Alliance was doing. Because and I didn't know who to send it to. I couldn't remember who took the minutes.
Karen.
Just made them this. They're not, they're just a little bit of clarification, not changing the, not changing anything substantive.
Who's taking minutes today? Just so
Me.
okay, great. Thanks, Julie.
Mhm.
So I'll just send these to Karen.
Are you going to make them in the form of comments in the document?
Well, to be honest with you, Doug, we shouldn't be editing the Google Doc.
Not editing it, commenting.
We should not be commenting the Google Doc. We will get into trouble if we comment the Google Doc. As soon as, and I'm saying that with the risk of, if we are passing around Google Docs and commenting them or editing them, we are likely to get into trouble with the open meeting law.
Exactly.
So let's stop doing that.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
to be clear,
It's just that.
I know it's just the minutes, but there are people in town who really care about this stuff. So I downloaded it, made some changes, and I'm ready to send it to Karen.
Just to reframe that, Brad,
Sure.
it's not just that people care about that, it's legal.
No, I know.
So it's
yes.
not, I know, I just want to be really clear, because it's not because people have objected to it, it's because it puts everybody at risk.
Yeah.
I actually had emailed Kate Hanley just to clarify this, because I was a little bit confused as well. And I can just read what she responded. It's just a short thing here. She says, committee members editing or writing documents together outside of a public meeting is considered deliberation outside of public meeting and a violation of open meeting law. Unfortunately, the only way to coordinate editing a document as a committee is to have everyone send their edits to just one person, and that one person combines into a final document.
Good plan.
Well, is it possible for you to do that, Karen, in this case, since you were the editor of the document originally, and then you can send it to me?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Karen.
Okay, let's move on. Or let's do it. Can I make a motion? Can I hear a motion to accept the minutes with the changes?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Okay. Any nays?
I just have to abstain because I wasn't there.
Okay. So moved. The next meeting date that we have on the docket is for February 18th at 3:30 to 5:30. Are we good with that?
I'm good.
Okay.
Could you repeat that, Doug? That the February 18th?
February 18th at 3:30 to 5:30. It's a Thursday. It's a month from now.
Yep, got it on the calendar.
Okay. Well, the next thing is to talk to Jan Assetti and the rest of the folks from Abode Technologies. Jan, you want to start?
Sure. Thank you, Doug. Thanks for having us, everyone. So as Doug mentioned, with me is Travis Estes. Christopher Herringer, who is Abode's heat pump specialist, was not able to be here tonight, but Travis has been intimately involved in all of our planning activities so far. And also with us are our two new heating cooling coaches, Ethan Herbermann and Jeff Tritch. And I must say that we had a very impressive slate of candidates to choose from in hiring two heating cooling coaches. We felt very fortunate we had such impressive candidates. And I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment. But what I'd like to do first is just give you some context for the coaching service. And some of you may have had a chance to read the deed grant application that Doug sent around to everyone. But the coaching service is intended to be part of a larger program that we will be, some parts of it have already begun. We'll be launching more parts of it next month. And we're calling it the Concord Clean Comfort Program. And we have some branding work that's been done for us by Energy New England. And maybe I can just share my screen and show you a bit of that. Oops, that's not it. Okay, but this is. Hopefully you can see this. We have a brand guide for a new brand and tagline here. And Energy New England prepared a variety of other pieces for us, and we will be modifying them to make them specific to our Concord Clean Comfort brand. And the purpose of this overall program is to increase adoption of heat pumps, to help residents navigate the complicated process of adopting heat pumps, and also to prevent sizing and performance issues. As you may know, oversizing heat pumps is an issue. And so Abode will be helping us to address that particular problem. We want to make sure customers are satisfied with heat pumps, and we want to make sure contractors are successful in marketing and selling heat pumps in Concord. And we'll be marketing the coaching service, we'll be marketing the Concord Clean Comfort program as a whole as well. The work is supported by both CMLP funds and a grant that we received from the American Public Power Association, which pays Energy New England for some marketing help, pays Abode, and pays our 2 part-time coaches. So let me just show you quickly. Here, let me share my screen again. Oops. There we are. Okay. Hopefully you can see this. This is a trifold that Energy New England prepared for us. It needs to be customized for Concord. You probably noticed this is Braintree Electric Light Department, I believe, down here. But this kind of lays out the structure of the Clean Comfort program. The first step for Concord residents is to contact either Christopher Herringa, the heat pump specialist, or we're going to put our 2 coaches front and center as we modify these marketing materials and as we launch our program to take inquiries from customers about how heat pumps can benefit them, help customers explore which heat pumps might work best for them, answer their questions about how to prepare for a conversation with installers, how to evaluate proposals, et cetera, et cetera. And at the point where a customer has signed a contract with an installer, actually, let me back up 1 step here. Step 2 is working with a contractor, and Abode is also going to be maintaining a participating contractor list for us. And this is a list of contractors who have agreed to follow the processes we've set up. They have a track record of customer satisfaction and success. And Abode will be monitoring their performance, making sure that our customers are receiving good service. Customers do not need to use a participating contractor in order to get a rebate. They may use a contractor of their own choice. However, in order for customers to receive a CMLP air source heat pump rebate at this point, they will need to follow the process that we've laid out. And that process starts with step 3, where each contractor will submit a sort of pre-approval survey to Abode with some information about the heat pump project. Abode will review it and provide feedback to the contractor if it does appear that it's oversized or otherwise not well suited to the house. The information the contractor provides to Abode will also include information about the home itself. Once that pre-approval is in place, the installer will go ahead, install the heat pump, and then Abode will do a follow-up quality assurance process, generally remotely, where the installer will be taking photos of their work answering some questions and submitting a survey to Abode, but there may be some cases in which Abode will do an on-site survey once that is more of an option, and if it were to be needed. So that is kind of the bigger picture of the program that we're launching. Some of these elements are already in place. The pre-approval requirement is already in place, and the QA process is already in place. We've modified the information on our air source heat pump rebate website to lay that all out for our customers. And we're continuing to provide rebates for air source, ground source, and heat pump water heaters as we have before. We will be, as far as marketing goes, we will be working with Kate Hanley to put a Concord Clean Comfort landing page on her sustainability site. And we would certainly look forward to working with CSEC in the future on promotion, marketing. We know that you folks are working on some testimonials from folks that have adopted heat pumps, which is very exciting. And I hope that we'll be able to take advantage of those as well to help market heat pump adoption. If you reviewed the grant application, you're aware that we laid out a whole month-by-month marketing plan for marketing the coaching service, different avenues each month. And so we will be doing that. So that's the bigger picture. At this point, why don't I just give Ethan and Jeff a chance to introduce themselves for a few moments, and then we can move ahead after that. Ethan, would you like to start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ethan Herbermann. I think this is a great day for talking about heat pumps, particularly air source heat pumps, because it's January. And if we look outside, we see the snow intermittently falling and the temperature around 22 degrees. And we're trying to convince people that the heat out there can heat their homes inside and keep them toasty and comfortable. So it is definitely a challenge. What I bring to that is about 30 years of experience explaining complicated things simply, explaining science specifically, mainly for NOVA at WGBH, writing scripts and online columns and all sorts of things. Also, I have inadvertently become very familiar with contractors and home renovation. I've wanted to come back to Concord ever since I spent 6 wonderful weeks in a spectacular home on the shores of the Sudbury River in 1981. Then I was kicked out, had my career, lived all over the place, couldn't move to Concord because, of course, if you're single, you don't live in Concord. But then I became unsingle, and the housing market sank sufficiently so that my wife and I could afford Concord if we accepted a cape so dilapidated that the real estate agent didn't want to show it to us and actually tried to argue us out of it. So we thought we were okay, but then the general contractor wasn't so great. So we became our own general contractors for 2 years of housing hell. And I became familiar with just about every form of renovation and subcontractor, except I have to admit heat pumps because it was 2011 and Mitsubishi was not going to be coming out with their advanced cold climate air source heat pumps for another year or two. So we don't have one, but we do want one very much. And I certainly look forward to convincing a lot of other Concordians that they need one too.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ethan. How about you, Jeff? Are you still muted?
And so I am. Hi, thank you very much for having us. My name is Jeff Tritch. I have been, I'm presently prominently but not completely retired from 40 years as a technology consultant, specializing in primarily colleges and universities, but also some other work with other large not-for-profit clients, including hospitals and government agencies. What they seem to have in common is very sophisticated technology needs and a very diverse audience that you need to explain those different technology needs to. In the case of higher education, you have faculty and staff, but you also have the professional technology management organizations. And I worked with them on telephone systems and data networks and technology planning and business continuity planning, disaster recovery, a whole wide area of explaining complex technological issues like Ethan simply. I moved to Concord in 2004, spent time doing weatherization improvements to my 1951 mid-century modern house, installed an air source heat pump in 2018, became very interested in the technology, the application, have had very good luck with the installation, but very pleased with it. And found myself sort of volunteering on our neighborhood listserv just to explain what I had done and why I had done it to neighbors. So when this opportunity of becoming a cooling coach came along, it seemed like a logical thing to do. And it's been fun so far.
That's great. So we could do a couple things here. Travis is here to provide more detail on some of the other program elements, the pre-approval, participating contractors list, QA, and so on. We can move forward and have him talk about that, or we could pause here. If you have questions specifically about the coaching service, we could address those at this time. It's up to you how you'd like to move forward.
I have a question, Jan, this is Hani. Do you have the list of contractors available on the site, on the Concord site or not?
There are links.
Okay.
There are links from our site to the list of participating contractors, which will continue to grow, by the way.
Sure, yeah.
I'm thinking that it might be worth it to just hear a little bit from Travis, and we'll try to keep it brief, but at the same time, if there are any questions that other CSEC members have directly, please ask them now. I guess this is as good a time as any to ask them of these guys.
I'm just wondering, I mean, it's up and running now. How long has it been running and how many people have you spoken to so far?
The coaching part is not up and running yet. Although Christopher Herringa is available as Abode's heat pump specialist to take inquiries and help people through the process of exploring heat pumps. Ethan and Jeff are involved in technology training right now. And so we're expecting that we will be publicizing their availability in February.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say, just looking back at our own records, we have actually been connecting with folks. We've helped, we've had about 21 different consultations. Looks like many of those are with a couple of folks. So multiple times through. Just as a little bit of an overview. So we are running this program in a total of 6 MLPs across Massachusetts currently. We launched it in mid-2020, and since that time, we've connected with over 200 residents. Around 35% of those folks that we connect with actually come back multiple times, in some cases 2, 3, or 4 times throughout the course of their project to continue to get consultation and advice on what's moving forward. And through that quality assurance component that Jan's alluded to, we've got around 60 projects across the state that have been submitted so far, totaling just over $850,000 worth of project volume. And so what that means for Concord specifically right now is that, you know, we're launching this program at a time when we're already seeing a lot of trends through other programs that will help ensure that this program is launched effectively and quickly. And also, we are already building out an extensive kind of contractor network. Currently, we have 3 contractors that have gone through the process of applying to be a participating contractor in Concord. And as Jan alluded to, we certainly expect that list to grow. Fortunately, through our work with other communities like Belmont, as well as RMLD for Reading Municipal Light, we have a lot of contractors that cover the geographic area. So as we're engaged with contractors in one community, we can also help get them into the fold of Concord as well, moving forward. As far as that process goes, one of the key points that I want to make sure that we're all aware of is in this process, the pre-approval step is pretty unique to these types of programs in the sense that most installed measure rebate programs that are kind of prescriptive in nature, meaning that it's kind of binary, it's either eligible or it's not, are typically done on the back end after a project has been installed. And so what that means for heat pumps specifically is that if there is a system that is either sized or designed poorly, we don't know about that until it's too late, basically. And our hypothesis with this program, and as we've been implementing, we've seen actually a handful of really great examples where contractors have presented customers with a solution and have gone as far as getting a contract signed. And upon our evaluation, before that project is installed, we've been able to flag areas of concern. And having been contractors ourselves, we take an approach of working with the contractors to engage with them, understand the why behind their approach. And in a handful of cases, we've really been able to change the course of projects in a meaningful way that will result in a better system for that resident, and will help continue to build the reputation of heat pumps as well. And that's certainly a critical thing. To Ethan's point, noting that on a cold day like today, it's really easy for folks to say, yep, this is a good example of why I don't have a heat pump. I'm sure glad I don't have one. But the reality, as many of us on this call know, is that, for example, my heat pump downstairs is conditioning the entire downstairs of my cape right now. It's working totally fine. And when we have systems that work well, that helps to dispel these types of myths. And dispelling these types of myths is critical in terms of building the correct kind of momentum and understanding within a community when we are looking at this as part of the kind of climate change solution. When we are thinking about electrifying our grids, we need to make sure that people are aware of the capabilities of these technologies and are enthusiastic about them, versus going around and telling folks that they simply don't work when, and in fact they should. So our approach is to work proactively to ensure that these systems are sized and designed correctly. And then on the back end, as Jan had alluded to, we work with contractors to collect key data through a data collection process that allows us to put eyes on a project. Having, again, been a contractor for many years, a lot of the problems that happen with these systems are attributed to that sizing and design and not necessarily the actual implementation of the install itself. These aren't particularly complicated systems to install. So we are able to, I think, have a reasonable evaluation metric through our virtual evaluation. And it also provides an opportunity to be less invasive for that customer, to not bother them another time with another inspection if it's not necessary. Through that virtual evaluation, if we do observe key components that are troublesome, we will certainly follow up with that resident to confirm that things are done appropriately. But our goal really is to make this process as seamless and as helpful for all stakeholders involved, not just the customer, not just the contractor, but kind of everybody, including CMLP when it comes to processing these rebates. So we've got a good track record right now of seeing how this is playing out in multiple communities. We're incredibly excited to be working with CMLP and others to help residents adopt this technology. And Abode is a resource for you on multiple fronts, not just on this. Just as a quick aside, in terms of other things that we do in your community, we are the lead vendor for Mass Save home performance contractors for National Grid. So for residents in your community that go through the Mass Save program with National Grid and opt to use a home performance contractor, those projects also flow through Abode Energy Management as well, including the various kind of quality assurance steps that we put in place. And we really do pride ourselves on taking a very critical and innovative angle to solving problems. And this does include how we collect data, whether that is rolling out new data collection forms for weatherization crews that give us a degree of insight into projects that historically we've never had, that help us inform how we then approach inspections. There's just a lot of opportunities that we can do things better. And we're excited that CMLP and other MLPs are thinking about heat pumps as one of those opportunities to really look at the landscape, provide a better service to your customers, to your residents, and also help contractors do it better. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and our goal is to kind of help facilitate success with all of them.
Thank you, Travis.
I have a question. Relating to the people that are doing the energy audits.
Yes.
With MLP, what's your relationship to working with them? How you will be working in coordination with them?
Yeah, that's a great question, Doug. So we have a great relationship with E&E, who provides the energy assessments. We have kind of a two-way communication channel there in terms of making sure that residents are thinking about their projects holistically. So whenever our team is connecting with a resident who has not gone through the energy assessment process, that is certainly something that we want them to do. There's a lot of value in that process and in that experience. Conversely, when E&E is conducting an energy assessment, they have the information on this program and the details on how to connect residents with the consulting services and the coaching services. And whenever projects are presented to us for review, we have insight into those energy assessment reports. So when we're evaluating a project proposal for pre-approval, we're able to reference the energy assessment reports that E&E had provided, which again gives us just better insight into the kind of thermal attributes of a home and what the load is and what it kind of should be.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'd love to know, because it seems like what Brad does with the Heat Smart Alliance is comparable in many ways. And so I'm wondering how the two programs kind of sync and hopefully dovetail and help one another. How does that work?
Absolutely. I'll just address that for a moment. So Brad and I are members of the coaching working group of the Heat Smart Alliance. So we've been working with others to develop tools for coaches to help them help customers. And my reason for being involved in one of my big reasons for being part of the coaching working group, the Heat Smart Alliance, was a hope that we would be able to use those same tools to allow our coaches, Ethan and Jeff, to build on them, adapt them, and so on, and use them in our coaching practice as well. We are right now one signature away from being able to do that. We drafted a memorandum of understanding between the Heat Smart Alliance, CMLP, and Abode, so that the Heat Smart Alliance would feel assured that if they shared their intellectual property, that they would not be prevented from using it at any point in the future if someone else copyrighted it or whatever. And so we're very close to being able to being able to use those tools. And the Heat Smart Alliance has been very generous in being willing to share them. Of course, it's part of their goal too, to see greater heat pump adoption in the region. So it kind of helps us all. And we will in turn be willing to share whatever we adapt or improve with the Heat Smart Alliance as well.
One other question I have: to what end will the data collection or the case examples that you encounter in Concord be documented in terms of being in a collection that could be shared with our people and also the Heat Smart Alliance people?
I think we would just need to protect client privacy. We're calling them coaching clients, by the way, if they desired that. But we may very well be able to complete some testimonials as well, just as you folks are doing and make those public. So that's certainly an option.
I got a question, and in the coaching I've done, one of the questions that is most important is who should I call? And the participating contractor list is a nice thing, although right now it's pretty small. And at the end of the Heat Smart program, Mass CEC put that nice page up that says, these are all the people who install so many systems and their average price per ton and stuff like that. Is there a resource like that you'll be pointing people to so they can do their own little judgment of which contractors have 3 stars or charge more than others?
So the Mass CEC resource at this point, I think was very good. They had an extensive amount of statewide data, which made that tool possible. It is a little antiquated at this point in terms of, things change, the market changes. So, but we still kind of look at it as well internally as a barometer to see where things are at and how they've changed. I don't at this moment have the expectation of developing a tool that would indicate a contractor's cost. If there is I'm not ruling it out, but I'm not sure yet that we're ready to go down that route. I do feel like there is a world in which we could, through case studies, be able to share, when appropriate, the associated cost, so that folks do have some sense of what these things are going to run them. I mean, Brad, as you alluded to, people ask this question quite often, and it's very easy to give them the attorney answer of, well, it depends. And so, we say that a lot, and quite frankly, it really does vary, and it is challenging with this technology where there are many kind of nuances associated with it, and the housing attributes matter so much to be able to say that, yeah, if you're paying more than $5,000 per ton, you're getting ripped off. Like, we're not ready to say that. And I'm not sure at what point we will be, especially given the fact that it is important for us to act as consumer advocates and to help give them the right information to make sense of what they're looking at. It's also important for us as representatives of CMLP to not explicitly recommend a contractor or a specific solution. So we really do take our role as a third-party objective educator really seriously. Like, that is kind of the tenet of what we're trying to do, is to enable a resident to make an informed decision. So when we are talking to folks and we're looking at a contract that quite frankly just is not good, it does not make sense for that person, it is more about kind of talking through the contract and how it might not meet that customer's goals and needs. So that, and then a little bit of why it doesn't meet their goals and needs, and not just saying, well, this contract is 1.5 times more than it should be. Like, we're not ready to kind of put that out there just yet.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question, Travis. Is the scope heat only, or is it potentially heat and other things inside a house?
Yeah, so I mean, for the clean comfort, we are looking at both we want to promote the heating and cooling benefits, both for heat pumps. As a BODE, we are looking to help residents think more critically about electrifying and decarbonizing their home. That is not part of this explicit scope, but that is something that, from a philosophical mission level, we are looking at and trying to figure out how best to support that.
Okay.
If I may follow up just with one more comment to address Julie's question about how this program and the Heat Smart Alliance may work together. I just wanted to mention that we have enough funding to pay Ethan and Jeff for 50 hours a month each. And I think ideally what would happen is we would have so many requests for coaching coming in that we would max out their time. And then Christopher Herringa is available. We have some hours for him as well. He would be a backup to them, that if we have overflow, he can take on any backup requests that come in. And the ideal world would be to overwhelm his time as well. And at that point, we would love to see, I mean, obviously, Brad, you'll continue coaching, I'm sure, anyway. But if there are other, volunteer coaches that are affiliated with the Heat Smart Alliance and so on, we would love to have so much demand for these services that we need to grow beyond our paid and contracted staff, to eventually volunteer staff as well.
And my final other comment on that too is, driving community change can't be done by one organization or one entity per se, right? There are lots of kind of skill sets and capabilities that each of these individual organizations kind of bring to the table. And so, we're looking at this as how do we best kind of align and leverage all of the different stakeholders so that, one, we're not duplicating effort, because that's just frustrating and can be not very efficient. And for a team of people that is focused on efficiency, that's not a good spot to be in. But also just making sure that we are building off of what one another is doing. And so as we are looking ahead, I would certainly welcome the opportunity and my team's opportunity to continue to provide updates to this crew of folks. And if there are specific point persons that we should be engaged with, all of those things are on the table, because we do want to make sure that you are all in the loop, and that if there are opportunities for us to provide resources to you and conversely you to us that can help better ensure that the community at large is aware of this opportunity and how to use it, that certainly meets all of our kind of collective goals. So we do think that it is a matter of all of us in the boat together, rowing in the same direction in the same cadence.
Right, and CMLP as well. We'd be very interested in talking with you about collaborating.
Yeah. Like one point of collaboration that we have had some discussion about in of our own group, and we still haven't figured out exactly how we're going to approach it, has to do with the use of the assessor's database in the town that indicates the types of fuel heating that different residences and the quantities of those things that exist in the town are, and using that as a way to do outreach to that set of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, just as a point of, in my experience, having done a lot with assessor databases over the last decade, the reliability of those varies significantly from community to community. So that is something to consider in terms of the accuracy. If you can hone in on streets that don't have gas, that is certainly an opportunity to be targeting, which might be slightly more effective than combing through the assessor database, just as a maybe a parallel path to consider.
Thanks. Well, are there any other questions for these guys? We should probably.
Nope. See Gilda's hand up there.
And that is, what would you people, BNE, Jan, like us to do to help you?
Well, I think that the testimonials that I understand, the case studies that you're going to be working on really sound like a wonderful tool that we can all use. Perhaps we can talk in the not too distant future about doing some coordinated marketing activities. I know you folks have done that well in the past, and perhaps we can work together to reach out to community groups and other sectors of Concord society.
We'll be talking some more about it later in the meeting, where a few of us have been thinking about the missing pieces and what doesn't seem to be effective and not. But it is a shifting sands. I'm really glad for this arrangement with Abode, but it sort of changes things around. We have to figure out how it all fits together.
I think you should go, probably you should know from our side, listening to us, we were affected, as everybody has been, by the COVID pandemic. And some of the expectations that we had had last spring about having a fair or a live representation were shut down and cut short. And then we went into a resync mode over the summer where we were thinking about trying to develop more video webinar type information. And I think we ran into a place in the summer, or really in October, where we realized it wasn't really practical because we really weren't set up to be the producers of this type of media. And so we've had to re-strategize, and I think in November we've been rethinking like what our purpose is and how we're going to deliver it. And some of the ideas for the case studies grew out of some of the thinking with that. There's a number of strategy plans that we're going to hopefully be touching on in this meeting and probably ongoingly for a few more meetings till we can reassemble what our targets are really going to be.
Mm-hmm. I would love to hang out and hear part of that discussion later in the meeting, if that's okay. And I think some of the other folks here might be interested in that as well.
Great.
Sure. Okay, well, let's move along.
Oh, Gilda?
Oh, I'm sorry, Gilda.
Thanks. I'm not a member of CSEC, so I will be quick, but I think that this is a great alliance. I think there's a lot of deep knowledge and commitment to mitigating climate change. So I'm really happy about this. I'm wondering, Jan, do you have any like target numbers of households that you're hoping will A, be assessed, and B, actually follow through?
We've committed as part of our grant to 150 coaching engagements over 18 months. And so that's our goal for coaching. We don't have yet a goal for installations. I think we'll kind of, we may come up with a goal, or we may just sort of see how it goes over time in terms of how many coaching engagements turn into installations and try to improve that ratio over time.
Mm-hmm.
Jan, sorry, what was the time frame?
Over 18 months.
Thank you.
150 coaching engagements.
Travis, related to that, do you have any, in your experience with other muni towns, do you have any sense of how many people this coaching process converts?
So I'll give you my favorite answer, and that's it depends. You know, I am seeing communities that have not made a deliberate effort to communicate this program to their residents, where we are still seeing 3 or 4 folks a month total reach out. And that's translating, I mean, we're still, I think are translating from our coaching consulting to projects right now, because it's still early on, is around 30%. But that's, I think, in part because a lot of our residents that we have been consulting with are just now in the early stages of getting quotes. And for folks, I don't know how many of you have tried to do any home improvement project in the last 6 months, but contractors across the board are completely slammed and backed up if they're worth anything. And so, you know, I think that right now we are starting to see the kind of cascade of early consulting sessions turning into projects. And, you know, so it is difficult, I think, in a community like Concord. And again, I've worked in Concord in varying capacities over the last decade. And so I do know the power of, you know, community-based social marketing and how that can really drive enthusiasm. I would be inclined to think that, you know, as we are engaging, getting to that target of 150 consultations, given that in ARCs, having been doing this, you know, kind of within 6 communities, and many of those communities just signing on in the last 2 to 3 months, already having done 200 as a BODE, I feel like we will very easily hit that in the first year or so, if not sooner. But I think a lot of that honestly has to do with the types of collaborations that we are able to implement with organizations like yours and with the Alliance and others, because if we can help effectively communicate this service to residents and also as a BODE help to continue to build an effective and robust list of contractors for residents to engage with, I think we're going to give residents the confidence that this is a technology worth really exploring. And if they have that confidence and that willingness to really look into it, I think what we will see with good contractors in the community is folks will make that decision to adopt this over other fossil fuel solutions. So I'm very optimistic, but I think that it very much depends on the degree to which we are effectively communicating this to the community. But I think, I've worked in your community before. I know that you're certainly up for the challenge.
Thank you.
Well, Abode folks, thanks very much for coming and being part of our meeting today. I look forward to maybe connecting with you in some ways in the future. We have to figure out what those ways are going to be, I think. But
of course. Well, yeah, thank you very much for having us. I am not a Concord resident, and unfortunately, it's also is a professional home with two parents working. I got to jump off to hang with my kiddos while my wife jumps back online. But I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And I know the rest of my team who are Concord residents might hang out for a little bit longer. So thank you all.
Thanks, Travis.
so the next thing we have on our agenda is some liaison updates, and there may be a mixed amount of information that people have. I haven't really checked in with the various liaisons, but why don't we just run through them and we'll do the best we can. So the first one we had was with Karen Gibson for the planning board liaison, and maybe Kristen Ferguson is from the planning board here. She's in the meeting, I believe. So if there's any updates regarding that for us to be aware of, do you have anything to share?
So I'm glad Kristen's here because I was not able to attend the full January 12th meeting. I was able to watch for the first bit where Gary Kleiman, one of the Concord residents who's participating in the RMI Building Electrification Accelerator Program, briefed the group and was talking about some things that Concord can do that wouldn't preempt state law. So, and a lot of this and the things that he was thinking about on behalf of the group fell into the green zoning sphere. And one of the things he mentioned was the town could adopt a formal definition of what a net zero building would be, thinking about the different types of uses in Concord, whether it's a net zero single family home or a residential cluster development or subdivision. And then also in conjunction with doing this, thinking about the metrics and how you actually measure what is zero. Yeah, I think Somerville has sort of gone this route and tackled the definition. And then one of the other things he mentioned were just the various incentives. Some towns are offering incentives for development, like waiving parking requirements or for commercial construction, or height or density bonuses in exchange for net zero construction. But he also just sort of cautioned that Concord has worked very hard to get the zoning bylaws where they are, and that if you're going to start offering incentives, they should be well thought out, so that you're not having some unintended consequences. And I'm afraid that's as far as I was able to listen in.
You have anything to add, Kristen?
I think that's a great summary. I think that the net zero definition of net zero is something we'd love to work with this group on. It's going to be kind of a longer term process. And as Karen's saying, we can't make a bylaw that says you can't have fossil fuel connections in new construction. So barring that, what are the other ways we can incentivize building electrification? And so that group did a good job of compiling some local zoning changes and things like that. So yes, our next step would be to work on that definition of net zero. What does that mean to us? And are we going to do it based on the kind of the dwelling type or the use of the dwelling or things like that? So if there's somebody in this group that somebody in the planning board can talk to, Haley Orvidal is probably, and the planning board is probably going to kind of spearhead that work. And so I can put her in touch as well. Other related things that that the planning board are working on is still the Thoreau Depot, Thoreau Business District redevelopment plan. And so we are trying to make that some new bylaws that make that a more walkable space and mixed use. And so if there's anything that we can incorporate there as well with sustainability, we will. You know, anything that we can do to kind of strengthen our bylaws to give the planning board more ways to evaluate things in the direction that, you know, the long range plan and sustainability, we want to do that. Right now it's been, you know, pretty challenging. So as you've heard when we talked to the, I think it was Patrick Cleary, who's the 13B Commonwealth Ave with the mixed use. The building is great, but we can't require him to have all electric. We can just incentivize him, or we can just ask. And then some of the things that we might pursue is asking an applicant to demonstrate the financial differences between, you know, an all electric building and a building with fossil fuels. And so that they actually have to go through that comparison on their own, rather than just tell us one way is or that building electrification is too expensive. So those are the kinds of things that we're trying to explore over the next, you know, year or so.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick comment for Kristen and Karen. You may be aware of this, but in the event you're not, there are several different net zero definitions already. The ones that I'm aware of are differentiate between themselves in terms of where the energy is generated. Is it on the building? Is it on the site? Is it somewhere else in town? So in case you didn't know that, I just wanted to point it out. You might want to begin to incorporate some of that information in your discussions.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's what we want to do is say, you know, here are 3 or 4 to start with, and which one aligns best with the goals of the town. And so I think it's going to take some iteration to craft the definition that's most meaningful for us. But thank you. Yeah, we definitely don't want to start from scratch.
Okay, the next item on our list here is the CMLP liaison update. Jerry, do you have any?
Yeah.
And Jan, if you have any comments, you can put those in.
Yeah, I'll start off, and Jan or Brian might want to add to this. I just have a few brief comments. The first, regarding the heat pump programs, CMLP did a sort of a retrospective look to see how effective they've been in terms of meeting their targets. And the short answer is they're running behind. In 2018 and then 2019 and 2020, the actual number of rebates that CMLP processed were 59, 52, and 38, respectively. So it's a declining number, even though the plan was for it to be an increasing number. So I don't know if they've done any digging to understand what's behind that, but that's just some data that they talked about. And I think in part because of that, but also more generally, Alice Kaufman made a comment to me, which is very important. And she said that our efforts as a town to reduce greenhouse gas emissions are really just nibbling at the edge. You know, we need to be much more aggressive in terms of reaching scale. This comment was made towards the end of the meeting, and I don't think was meant to prompt discussion in that meeting, but I took it as a critical comment about where we are and the speed at which we're moving. And I think we all need to be much more aggressive in terms of what we're planning. And lastly, perhaps related to that, but probably not, is that CMLP is planning to update their strategic plan. I think the existing plan is 4 or 5 years old. And So they acknowledge they need to update that, and I believe that's in their plans. So that's all I've got for the meeting.
Was there a chance, there was a presentation given at the CAAB meeting back in December,
Right.
where they had presented the decarbonization plan for CMLP. Is that
Right.
something that's available publicly?
Yes. It's available on YouTube. It's worth watching. For those folks who haven't seen the presentation, if you want, I can dig up the link and send it to you. You can put it in the minutes, although someone else may have it available.
Not just the YouTube one, but there was a presentation of it was like a PowerPoint presentation with lots of slides.
Yeah, this is a video of that PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
So it's better than just the presentation because you have the verbal presentation and the commentary with it, and it's just not just the slides.
Yeah. I think one of the things that has always come up for me about, and that I find particularly interesting about the decarbonization plan at the MLP level, it has to do with the reduction of carbon-based fuel systems and the role that plays in the future of the MLP, where we're moving toward one where there's fewer and fewer carbon-based resources that are being used. But in the whole program that today, where we are advocating people change to electricity, it's only as good as the MLP's ability to be using non-carbon-based resources. And that decarbonization plan is so central to that whole aspect, and understanding what the timing is going to be like to get the MLPs converted over to non-carbon based power resources. Right.
So that's been discussed in the CMLP board meetings too. And I believe we talked about that a little bit here in the last meeting, particularly in terms of the nuclear portion of the CMLP's portfolio.
Right.
So that's also discussed in this CAB presentation that's in YouTube.
Right.
So, you know, they're both required in my mind. You know, we need CMLP to clean up their portfolio as soon as they can, and we need to pursue beneficial electrification through town as much as we can.
Right.
So they go hand in hand. I don't think it's one or the other.
But I would say, I would just add that I think it's nice that they go in hand in hand, and CAB and CMLP can really focus on that first part, where we focus on the other. Not, I mean, even though it's super interesting to us, I don't know that we have much to add.
In terms of the portfolio mix?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we should spend too much time talking about it in general.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
Should we move along?
Yeah.
Okay, Mass Energize update.
Oh, okay. So the Mass Energize, the Cooler Concord site, which is our version of the platform, which we get for free from the nonprofit that I work for, but I've updated it with a bunch of actions. So this is kind of where you can go to find out about solar, etc., EVs, and all these actions lead you to the best town resources when available. And we sent out a newsletter to the list that we had on MailChimp, and got a number of people to go and check out the website at coolerconcord.org and make profiles. And so it's sort of launched now. We were promoted this Zero Carbon Home webinar that was done this past Tuesday, which got quite a good turnout. We got over 100 people. It's by this fellow David Green, who we met through the Heat Smart Alliance, and he's kind of a character who's got a perspective on doing solar weatherization and heat pumps and getting a great return on investment. So we're going to be redoing that webinar, having another live webinar on it on Tuesday, because not enough people could attend the one we did last Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, Brad?
Next Tuesday. And I want to see Julie there.
I wanted to be at the last one and then something came up, but I had it on my calendar. It sounds
But
really
I saw some of the names on this screen at the
Can you
webinar.
send a link to the acts for it to everybody?
Sure, I'll do that. And what else? I'd still like people on the committee to go check out the site and add a couple of testimonials about things you've done. Because one of the things about this site is it's very localized. It's like it's as Concord specific as it can be, with pictures of places you know, and ideally a number of testimonials about your heat pump or your what you did by people from town. But right now there's just two of mine. So I'm encouraging people to check it out and add their little bit. That's all I had to say. Well, we are going to get an intern from CCHS. The high school has an internship program, and I just arranged to get someone to do software development for 6 weeks through that program. And that's going to be fun. I love working with high school kids.
Okay. Any comments about the Heat Smart update, Brad?
Well, yes. So I mentioned that we had been trying to get a fiscal sponsor, and we did that through this nonprofit called HEAT, Home Energy Efficiency Team. It's a great organization. So they've taken us under our wing. So now we can sort of be much more official. We can apply for grants, take donations, think of projects to do, and do them. And the coaching working group that Jan's been running has been great. I think that is aiming to get coaches in all of the towns firing on all cylinders, basically. So everything that we do here in Concord, a lot of other towns are going to emulate, which I think is great. And we can take advantage of what they're learning. I became the treasurer again, not reluctantly. It just nobody else wanted to do that. And the Heat Smart Alliance has a new website in progress that Steve Bright is working on, and it's going to be beautiful soon.
And it's being
pretty much.
What's Alliance?
Right now we have this old website that Doug may remember from Heat Smart Concord, Carlisle, Lincoln, which was just slightly modified. And Steve, you guys haven't met Steve. He from Wayland. He has is doing a great job at updating the website and making a new one. Because you have to have a presence, or you're nothing. That's pretty much the update.
Okay. Another update quickly. Janet, do you have anything to say about the EV working group?
I don't think there's a whole lot to report this month. The EV pilot project for multi-unit dwellings is progressing slowly, negotiating, how it's going to work and how the electricians can get paid, because CMIP doesn't want to pay up front, and the electricians typically want interim payments in the middle. So we're working on it, but it's making slow progress, and I'm not sure there's anything else that's ready to report. I mean, Janet, if you have something you'd like to say, please say so.
When you speak of the electricians not getting paid, can you give it some more
Well,
context?
I mean, we got a quote from an electrician at Riverwalk, and I have a sort of dual role here because Riverwalk was one of the multi-unit dwellings which was selected. So our electrician wanted some certain percentage down, and then another payment when he was like halfway through.
Was the bill, was
And then a final payment.
compensation?
And CMIP doesn't normally doesn't normally pay until something is completed, and they're not willing to give us a waiver. So I think our electrician is going to accept that, but I haven't had confirmation of that. But that's detail you don't really need to put in the minutes.
Okay.
So, hi. So there's a great email that went out today, and one of the things being offered are magnets for your car and decals for the window if your car is aluminum. It promotes the drive electric, and I highly suggest everyone who has an EV here go find that email and make a request, because just like everybody says, my kids are at the middle school or at Willard or at the high school or on this sports team or that, people read the bumpers of the car in front of them. So it's a great way to get free promotion in town.
Okay, I want one.
Say again, how do you get one of those?
You email a request to ev@ene.org, I believe. ev@ene.org.
Okay, thank you.
And let them know we have a oval magnetic decal. I think it appeared on the screen momentarily there. Thanks to
Yep.
Brian. And then there's a square static cling decal. There's the magnetic decal, and then a square static cling one. And so let them know which you want. You're welcome to request one of each if you'd like, and give them your mailing address so they can put it in the mail to you. There it is. There's the window, the static window cling decal.
Great.
Cool, thank you.
And as far as the CAAB liaison update, I'm somewhat of the liaison. I realized that there was no meeting last night, so the meeting is on Tuesday. I mean on Wednesday next week, and I will try to attend and get more updates. Do you have any more information, Brian, that you might make us aware of?
No, sorry, Doug.
Okay. So moving right along, the next item on the agenda has to do with trying to have spend a bit of time talking about CSEC's strategy going forward. And in particular, Brad, this related to the document that you were working on this week that was an advancement of some of the strategy that we had been talking about in December.
Yeah.
And, do you have the ability to put up or show some of those bullet points?
Yeah. So it's a background. So I've been working on a new document together with Gilda and Sharon and Mike McAteer, and I haven't sent it around. It's trying to let me give a little background because I haven't had a chance to talk to Jan about it and the other guys. You mind if I take a screen for a second?
Go ahead.
Okay. So And now I'm going to blow this up to be bigger. Oh, that's probably too big. Maybe it's not too
That's
big.
good.
So if we were to go from our goals of electrification, I think we need to be hitting lots of houses, many more than we talked about earlier. But it's very ambitious. So I would, what we're thinking about is what can we do? What are the things we can do, taking advantage of everything available to us and improving the things that we can to get to more like 250 homes a year? I think that would put us on track to get emissions reduction down, way down. And that would be ideally that number of conversions. So in order to get to that many, you have to hit more like 500 homes a year and really make contacts and follow-ups. There's a lot of barriers in the way, and it's a lot of what we talked before. Homeowners are not familiar. You don't have that many chances to reach them when HVAC systems fail, and it's currently more expensive than natural gas, which is why we're thinking of really focusing first on oil-heated homes. What we did in the last week is try to break this out into a set of sub-projects. And try to just figure out where we can add value. And I don't mean just CSEC, I mean CSEC and CAB and community volunteers that and the sustainability division working together with CMLP. So I think we want to do a fairly simple market segmentation definition and go for as many of the homes that have expensive heating fuels as we can. So that's a project, is how to figure out how to segment the market. Not try to get too sophisticated. But as an initial phase, if we're piloting something, we can go with a list like Green Your Heat participants, which are oil-heated homes, many of which maybe have already installed heat pumps, but others already did work. They're interested in this stuff. Then another project is designing an outreach campaign, perhaps doing some focus grouping, surveys and promotions, working through schools, working through community groups. Hey, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. I don't mean to interrupt, but I was curious as to the degree that all the private schools and their residents in town have been captured or quantified, and whether that's a low-hanging fruit for us to get involved with.
The private schools?
Yeah, the private schools.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to do that. I mean, through it with the, we have worked through Concord Academy with some success for things, and also through the public schools. But it's certainly, that's part of what we need to do. Now, one of the things that I think—
For a second, Concord Academy was planning to do a fair last year on energy conservation. So they're certainly interested.
Oh, yes, certainly. I'm not trying to get into too much depth in all of these. I'm just trying to show that there's a lot of elements here, and that finding people with the right talents and figuring out how to plug them in will be important. I think we need to engage homeowners really with something that they look at and says, that would give me good value. And so thinking in terms of a home energy plan, where if we want to touch a homeowner, we'd like to say, okay, your system may be working now, but how old is it? And how efficient is your home? And what are you driving? And is your roof good for solar, etc.? Now, home heating being the focus of this, but sometimes the economics are very much improved if you were to go solar at the same time. Things like that. So home heating energy, home energy plan is something people have talked about, and we would need to design this in such a way that people found it of good enough value to pay attention to. Now and then we have an energy audit process through Energy New England, and I think it makes some sense to ask, is it effective enough? And I'm not sure to what extent it can be improved, but in a couple of our opinions, the audits from a year or two ago, at least, are not actionable enough. They seem like a lot of, there's a lot of boilerplate in there. And I just want to ask the question whether it's actionable enough, and how we can help more people to moving forward. At the back of a energy audit, there is a home performance score kind of hidden in the back, and I think that that's a case where the kind of leading with that is what some of the utilities do. When you get your thing from National Grid, it says you're below average in your town. That's kind of motivating to move forward, for example.
Excuse me one second. Can I just suggest, I know you have so much of this in your head, but
right.
I think just a couple sentence overview would be really helpful.
Hilda?
Do you mind if I?
Sure.
Yeah. So, so as Brad was saying, and as Alice Kaufman said, reported by Jerry, our programs, even though we work really hard on them, are just nibbling at the problem. We have to, our programs, and I was on CSEC for more than 3 years, reach a few percent of households, and we need to be at more like 30%. So there's a big discrepancy between the current state and where we need to be. So one of the things we started talking about, and it's in a very drafty stage, is what about if we encourage people to get a whole home energy plan that would look at multiple ways of electrifying, and had that plan last, had that plan be designed to last for like 5 or plus years, so that when people were actually at the point of making a decision, to like, oh my goodness, my heating system is wrecked, or my car is just on its last legs, they would be ready to make the decision to electrify. So it's essentially, we're trying to get more people to understand, see the benefits. Brad was talking about some of the marketing ways of doing that have been proven in other places. And the goal is and we would have once we contacted someone, let's say someone was contacted in 2021, that we would have various touch points over the next several years to keep people encouraged and informed. So
Yeah.
I don't know, Brad, was that okay?
That was helpful.
Okay.
All helpful. So a lot of this is just a bunch of ideas that need to be well thought out, need to be better thought out. We have, I think the coaching process is coming together nicely, but I want to. The question is, if we're going to be reaching customers through reaching residents through the paid coaches or through volunteer coaches, can we do a basic energy analysis, a simple energy analysis of a heat load, and evaluate, give them a skeleton proposal for what a solar PV system might look like, etc. And so there's a lot to think about there. One of the thoughts I had, and I think it's a little complicated, but is proposing if you were to engage a homeowner who hasn't thought about this yet, know enough about their home, whether they have ductwork or not, how big it is, to say what a couple of heat pump systems might look like that they could use, based on a couple of sort of example model designs. So here's a multi-zone heat pump that has duct and gets into so many rooms. It costs in a certain range, so that people get a sense of, okay, these are the options that I should think about. I think one of the things we should update a certain amount of content, just one pagers on, for example, with the ones I thought of just the other day was, a guide, the electric rates are changing, and that makes things a little complicated, but how does that affect me? Should I get backup batteries? Weatherization, making weatherization more accessible to people, and solar PV and electric vehicles. So we don't want to overwhelm people with information, but we want to provide them with the tools to say, okay, these are the things I want to think about. This is what I need to know, and get to the resources that they need. This is something helping weather. Travis talked about this as well, and so I'm not sure where this fits, but weatherization is a big part of it, since a lot of homes will need work to be really effective with heat pumps. But I think that's maybe where we can add some value. The other thing, another sub-project that I don't know how to tackle, but I think it would be good if we had a home electrification database, which was potentially a repository for home energy plans, and possibly connects to a real estate database, so that people can take advantage of the value of investments that they make when they sell their homes. And I don't know if it's worth revisiting what the rebate levels are, comparing them with other programs. That's one thing. Low interest financing is is a missing piece. And Kate has said that she's going to be having probably an intern this summer to research this and make recommendations. But for a lot of homeowners, this is a big impediment to doing a big investment. Now, this is the goal numbers that I mentioned are very ambitious. That would mean providing assessments to like several hundred homes in a year, which is kind of like five coaches working a lot of time, a good fraction of their time. I don't know if it's doable. I don't know how well this is scalable, but this would take a fair amount of management. And I don't know where that, who owns that, whether it's in sustainability division or in CMLP or whatnot, but it's not something that a volunteer committee owns. We can sort of try to help design something and help take part in it. And the other, funding this would be a big deal. I don't think it would be inexpensive, but I do want to look at, getting a town funding commitment for helping us get started with whatever we do. And there's this grant funding opportunity, which I think might be a good match from Mass CEC, although I don't know yet whether MLP communities are eligible. I've asked a couple of times. So these are basically a breakdown of some sub-projects, and I'm not sure exactly where to go with this. As I said, I haven't had a chance to talk to Jan and Kate about it yet in any detail, but this is at the level of brainstorming. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Things are in such flux with the new heat pump coaching program and stuff. We have to figure out how it all fits together. But our goal should be to make that as successful as possible and keep people busy, raise our level of ambition. Any questions?
A comment that I have about it is that I see this, we're not by any means at an endpoint with this.
No.
It's a deliberation that's going to have to be a part of our meetings in the next few times. And it's going to be a work in progress. And I think a thing that you said is, as we've thought about it, is that this is not a 1-year type of program. It's a 5-year or longer type of program. So
right.
I think that the coordination of what we do with CMLP and with the coaching program, and it'll be interesting to see how it evolves over the year.
Right. So it would be good if we can sit down, with Jan and Kate in a couple of weeks. I know things have been quite busy, to try to see where, because this is all, I hadn't heard of the Clean Comfort program yet, which is they're pretty advanced thinking in terms of all of this. And if we were to do something that didn't mesh well with it, it would cause a lot more confusion than do much good, for example.
Okay. The next.
It looks like Bob has his hand up.
Okay, I apologize.
Bob?
Bob, did you have a question?
His hand's been up for a while. I think he might have stepped
Yeah.
away.
Okay. Well, the next thing we have on our agenda is to discuss a little bit of, just look at and review the Concord heat pump installation case study overview and samples that we have. Let me share my screen and I'll just share with you what we got from Kate. And Sharon, you did a first sample case study, which, okay, let me see if I can find this. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the outline. Did you want to do the outline or the example?
I was going to just, well, would you like to go through the example? Let me just share the outline quickly first.
Yeah.
This shows the base information about the house, the age of the house, the style of the house, the square footage of the house, the number of floors and such. It gives information about what their plans are for the transition, whether it's heating, cooling, hot water, cooking and such. When they were contemplating or when they already did make an upgrade. One of the things that I tried to do as I read this outline was I have thought about it in relationship to my own house, where we have a heat pump in our house that we implemented last summer. And I also, but I will say that it's not a comprehensive solution. It's a partial solution because we have 3 heating zones in our house and it covers one of them. It also was useful to have this outline because I created another study of another house in our neighborhood that went to implement a heat pump system. And I was using this as a guide from Kate to steer us into having a standardized way of representing the information that we had. And I noticed that as I went through it in my own case for my own house, the first iteration of it came through as being pretty high level and yet probably pretty useful for an informational background or sort of purposes. But if you needed to replicate the system or you needed to use it as a guide for making recommendations to somebody else, you'd need a higher level of detail. At least that was my sense, because in the first heat pump analysis that I did, which was of this other person's house, I captured all of the equipment that they had with pictures, and I also captured it with the model numbers of the different parts of the system and such, which aren't really included in this outline, which is probably fine. It brings us back to like, what are we trying to really accomplish with this set of case studies? And have we committed, how have we committed to maybe working on this? Are we going to try and have members of the CSEC committee write some of these case studies in their own experience with their own houses? Or are we going to have them, in some cases, be assigned certain other cases that they can write up and follow this outline to fulfill? Any thoughts on this?
I think I think this outline is pretty nice, and that I have a list of people that we can add on to who have either new homes or homes built electric or homes retrofitted. We could probably do some interviews. Committee members could, or somebody else could, but I think it would make sense for us to do it.
In the next month to 2 months, is that something that other CSEC members see as being doable? If Brad was to come up with a list of people that he's coached with, or we know that are representative of samples, that we might try to make an initial set of, I don't know, let's say 10 cases.
It strikes me that that might be hard to do in that time period because of COVID. Later in the year, when after more vaccinations occur and people open up a bit, it would be easier to do this. I mean, you could do it anyway. It's just that you wouldn't be able to look at things the way you'd want to. It'd be more difficult to get some of that information on that you might want.
Okay.
I don't mean to be negative on this. I think it's a good idea, but I think that's a practical limitation over the next few months at least.
Because it sort of implies visiting the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it doesn't, it's not a total requirement, is it? I mean, I guess.
No, it's just harder.
One of the things that I noticed as I went about doing this is like the idea of creating a draft of a case study and then improving it later as it's qualified as something that's worth pursuing a little more might be sort of valuable. So that some of these case studies might be in a draft mode for a little while as we unify them or edit them down so that they're appropriate for a book or something. You know, if we were going to have a pamphlet that with a set of case studies.
Yeah, so I did talk about it with Kate, and I think the book is, for the most part, is an online book, as opposed to a physical book.
Sure.
So I think we can do a lot of them without visiting homes.
I think you could do it. I mean, what was it? If I go to the other, let me just go to the sample case. Or maybe it's in the beginning of this.
No.
Schedule
It's a separate document.
Here, schedule a 45 to 60-minute phone or Zoom call with the interviewee. There's not even, in the assumption that she makes here, there's not a need to visit the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we did mine completely over Zoom in about an hour. I was very impressed though with Kate's write-up. I just thought she did an excellent job.
Do you want me to bring up your case study and
Sure.
play that? Okay, let me grab that.
So this was a conversation between you and Kate, is that correct?
Yes.
And she just wrote it up.
Yep.
So are these supposed to all be like third person, like this Sharon's is? Or will some be first person, like, this is my house, this is what I did? Or does it matter?
I think we're trying to figure that out, Janet. We really haven't solidified on it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to follow the guidelines that Kate sent us. And if you have a copy of that, like if you have a case in mind that you'd like to write up, I would recommend taking this outline that Kate gave us and trying to approximate as closely as possible along the lines of the guidelines that she gave us.
I think Kate did such a fantastic job. From our conversation, she really made little story vignettes that are much more readable than more fact and figure based. That you don't really get that from the outline.
Can I just ask, since I missed the last two meetings, sorry, can I just ask to sort of take a step back and ask, like, where is this online case study book going to live and who do we expect to read it?
Don't think we've completely figured that out yet.
I think it sort of sits in the sustainability website alongside the dashboard that Kim Lundgren and Associates has done, in a way, because that's kind of a central place where you can read about upgrading your building and point to, oh, here's people that have houses just like yours. I think Jan has a question. If I
okay,
got that right.
Thanks, Brad. A couple things. One of them is that, as I mentioned, there will be a Concord Clean Comfort page on Kate's sustainability website. Certainly, we could link to these testimonials wherever it is they're stored from that page. That could be, because we'll be sending people to that page a lot. So we could link to these testimonials from that page. It's one thing. And then I just wanted to, Ethan, you had a good suggestion when we talked about this. We have a coaching meeting every Wednesday morning, and Kate had shared the outline and the sample with us. And Ethan, you had a good suggestion about asking the homeowner just to take a little video of their installation with their phone.
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, they could walk around the home and give a tour as if we were walking right behind them.
That is kind of a nice idea.
In addition to the written case study, I think just videos do capture people sometimes, and that might be a nice addition and easy to do without having to visit the home if the homeowner is comfortable doing that.
We were also discussing the idea of using some sort of database or some other program to capture this information rather than a Google Docs or Word type document, so it would be sortable. You could look for causalities. You could do the other kind of data mining that you can do with databases that you can't easily do with Word-based documents.
So if Jeff or Ethan were talking to someone with a CAPE, that they could easily find case studies you guys had prepared for CAPES and to show someone else how they deployed heat pumps in their CAPE. So if we could search for them quickly, that'd be helpful.
Right.
An example that, Jan, that I was imagining in my case, like in our house situation, the heat pump had to be, it wasn't a mini split. It had to be a ducted heat source, a ducted heat pump that was connected to a ducted system. And that's a specialized category,
Mini duct.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. It'd be great to have examples of those easily identifiable as well.
Right. So you could do keyword search or something like that, and I'm sure we could define a lot of those.
It would be nice. It would if there is an effort to create a structured database of the case studies, and that also maybe some of the other things that's needed structured data. It would be really nice to have it be able to be usable by the abode coaches, the Brad's coaching group, and any of the CSEC members to look up things. I don't know if that's unreasonable, but it would be nice to plan it that way.
Yeah, so I hadn't thought about databasing, but I guess any any set of web pages is ultimately in a database in a way. If it was a WordPress site, it's a database. And you can put tags on, but I'm not sure that.
Well, you don't need to. You can, Brad, you can use Google Docs with tags. It works as effectively.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the database, then you have structured fields and, you have a lot of free-form text here, which is a little bit harder, right?
Yeah. Good. Okay, good. I think there's a lot of possibilities. And we did show we know how to make bad videos. So
I was thinking about that when it was mentioned, take a video of your system. I'm like, yeah, we know we can do a better job of that. Dave, did you want to just, Doug, did you want to scroll down a little bit just so people could see the rest of that?
Sure. I don't know why it's formatting large font there, but
Yeah, I don't know. It's details.
where do you want me to go in it specifically?
I don't know. I just thought you might, I've read it. So if other people want to pipe up, if they have a chance to look at it.
I was using it as as an example of something that I was trying to mimic as I was trying to write up something about my own house. And it's just amazing how different your case study was from my case. Like totally different universe.
Yeah, that's what I was saying with the outline. Like looking at that outline, you wouldn't necessarily expect this to be the result.
I think we need to get Kate to write them all. She did a really good job. It was engaging and interesting.
Yes, she did a really good job.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed.
And I think that's going to be key.
Right. Well,
how important, I noticed in yours, you didn't provide any cost data, even.
I just didn't have it ready yet. This sort of prompted me to go catalog all that and come up with savings. So I've been doing that in the past few days of coming up with my savings that I figure I'm saving about $1,200 a year.
Yeah, well, you're doing better than I can. I can't quite figure it out. So
yeah, well, I got completely off oil, so that saved me $1,800, and my electric went up by about $600. So
when they had to drill the wells for the ground source heat pump, was that must have been a pretty major expense?
Yes, that was almost $15,000, $14,000. That was very significant expense.
There's no expected payback time that I see in there.
No, and this is something I think we've talked about in these meetings from time to time, is we need to kind of move away from that. I mean, it's so if I'm saving $1,200 a year and I spent, even after rebates, $25,000, you're like, oh, well, that's like a 20-year payback. But I had to do something. You have to, it's like I needed a new furnace or something that wasn't going to be free. And what's the payback on having a livable planet? That we need to move towards this.
Right.
Not completely ignoring payback or return on investment, but
well, this is why I think making the case that you made this investment that might not pay back in the time you live there, but it adds value to the home.
Right. Well, and that's one of the closing paragraph is one of the decision points is if I'm going to, when I first started looking into this and people were like, well, how long are you going to be in the house? And I decided it didn't matter how long I was going to be in the house. Because even if I leave next year, I would rather leave a legacy of this system than some, fossil system.
One of the things that was a conclusion that I had as I looked through this is the assumption that you have to make a decision to go all electric. It may work in some cases for some people to do that, but there may be plenty of cases where you have to get into a hybrid model where you're partially electric and you're doing one part of the house at a time. Or there may be parts of the house that you can do, but other parts of the house that you can't do.
Right, right. Yeah,
I think that's an important point. I think the hybrid model is an important point. I mean, I think if you're going to preach to the converted, then, then you're basically going to limit that population that may be willing to put that investment in doing it. But I think a transition process, a migration that says, hey, like, I'm okay. I mean, I put my case, I can put my case. I have an option to replace my gas boiler, right? Furnace. I need to replace it. It's 25 years old. So it's first, it's not effective. The question now, do I leave it as is and start doing air source heat pumps and start really reducing the usage as much as possible? And then eventually you get to a model where you substitute completely, at least for heating, right? So I think those are the kind of scenarios, especially that's why I'm interested in the coaching, Brad, because to understand the sizing and how it works and what are the options you can recommend and things like that, right? So that's, I think, a more, you have the people who are willing to put in the investment 100% and committed to doing that versus the people who need to migrate to that model eventually.
Right. If you have, in my case, the furnace was on its last leg. I looked at putting in, just the coil, but there wasn't room, and I needed a new furnace anyway. So.
I apologize, but we're running over it, and I just want to make sure that people are okay with that if we're going to do that, or do we need to end?
Could I ask a quick question?
I have to go soon.
Or
Yeah.
Do you have any case studies where someone replaced their AC compressor with a air source heat pump?
Yes, that's one of the situations that we have for one of the zones in our house only. Not
okay. So that is a great example of someone being tepid about the transition. So you can, the next time your central AC machine breaks, replace it with an air source heat pump.
That's right.
And leave the furnace you have and reduce its use by using electricity.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Great. Oh, all right. I'll shut up. I gotta go too.
I do too.
I need to drop off.
Doug, would you like me to interview you and try and write a narrative like this? Would that?
Yeah, I'd welcome that if you want, and I'll give you.
I don't
have.
know what I'm letting myself in for, but I can try.
One of the things that before we end, I just have one comment. This isn't to everybody, but it's to the people that I sent email to. There is a need to have a CSEC annual report it's due on January 29th. I wrote a redraft of it and Janet helped me a little bit, but I've extended it, Janet, since you sent me the first draft. And I wanted to make sure I took a number of the bullets that Brad talked about in his strategy planning and bulletized them in very simplistic form.
Yeah, and I've taken the document and I've erased those bullets. I was going to send it back to you.
Oh, you did erase those.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want those in the report.
Okay.
I don't think the stuff that we're just speculating about, I don't think goes in an annual report. But I want to send you that with.
Well, can you correspond with me on Monday or Tuesday next week?
Yes.
And
happily.
We'll work.
I think you're close to done. We can knock that off.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions or public comment that wants to be made in the next minute or two?
I have one quick comment, or at least question, which is you had mentioned something about wanting a case study for somebody who had put in a ducted air source heat pump. And that's what I put in, and I'd be more than happy to provide you the information if that would be helpful.
Who's this speaking?
Jeff Tritch.
Excellent.
You're on the list.
Great. Glad to do it.
Okay. Any other public comments? Hearing-
Oh,
Hearing nothing, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
yeah, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you again, those of you that are here from the CMLP for sharing the abode process with us. And I think it'll be helpful, and we look forward to working with you more in the future.
Totally.
We do as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Good to see everybody.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
Mm.